Many of you knows about Joseph Smith's history and how the church was established in its first beginnings. But do you know how the church was established in other countries? Do you know about their history, sacrifices, and particularities? Well, it is my purpose to give you a brief account of the chronological events related to the establishing of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Portugal from 1974 until present date. From 2012 to 2014, I was called to be the Church History Advisor for Portugal. During that period, I did important research about the history of the saints in Portugal. Let's then go travel to 1974. On April 4, 1974, in his historical address to the regional representatives, President W. Kimball spoke with special emphasis on the missionary program. He stated that missionaries would be called as they had never been called before, that every young man should go on a mission, and that countries outside of the United States should begin to furnish their own missionaries. He also said that new lands would begin to open for missionary works, lands that had never had the gospel before. You know, Portugal was the first nation to open up after this announcement. On April 25, 1974, the same year, Portugal was just emerging from a serious political crisis when Portuguese military officers united to overthrow the 40-year dictatorial regime. In August of that year, Kimball sent David M. Kennedy, a special representative of the First Presidency and a friend of the new Portuguese leaders, to Lisbon to see how the leaders would feel if the church came to their country. The meetings were very productive, and the church was granted official recognition. On November 1974, the Portugal-Lisbon Mission was created, with W. Grant Bangerter as its first president. He had been serving as a mission president in Brazil. The first official public meeting of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was held Sunday, November 24, 1974, at home of Ray Caldwell in Estoril, Portugal. There were 16 people present, including the mission president, the Caldwell family, and 4 missionaries. Portugal had just been opened for missionary work. President Bangerter and 4 missionaries arrived in the country from Brazil a few days previous to the beginning in the work in this area. They came with all the church literature, already translated and published in Portuguese language. The missionaries were already fluent in the language as well. On January 1975, with Ray A. Caldwell called as the first branch president, they have the first meeting. It was rented a place in a hotel. It was called Hotel Roma, and there were 30 persons present, counting 3 investigators. But within a few weeks, attendance grew up to 85 persons. And Maria de Lourdes and Maria José Dias Prista were the first converts baptized on March 4, 1975 in Lisbon, Portugal. Next year, on April 21, 1975, back then, Elder Thomas S. Monson of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles disembarked at Lisbon Airport. The Portugal mission had already been in the country for more than 4 months when Monson arrived. With only 17 young missionaries, were given some solid steps in establishing the Lord's kingdom in Portugal. And Thomas S. Monson dedicated Portugal for missionary work on 22 of April 1975 at a spot hill in hills outside of Lisbon. Nearly 50 people were assembled at 8 a.m. on that spot, overlooking the Portuguese countryside and the ocean to hear Elder Monson dedicate the land to the Lord. 1 year later, on May of 76, Fernando and Inês de Reis Amaral became the first couple from the Portugal-Lisbon mission and of Portuguese descendants to be sealed. The ceremony was performed in the Provo Temple, Utah. Years later, on June 10, 1981, a memorable meeting occurred in the Roma Theatre in Lisbon. A short 6 years had passed since W. Grant Bankerter arrived in Lisbon to preside over the newly created Portugal-Lisbon mission. James M. Paramore of the 70 came to organize the first stake on the Iberian Peninsula, the Lisbon, Portugal stake. Well, that the stake would be organized after such a short period can be only attributed to the hard work of the Portuguese pioneers and the missionaries. By 1977, the church had more than 1,000 members. By mid-80s, there were some 5,000, and since then, the membership increased to almost 43,000 members, with 74 congregations and 2 missions. More recently, on the 2nd of October 2010, in the General Conference of the Church, President Thomas S. Monson announced the building of a new temple in Lisbon. Portugal had a new era arriving for the saints. Over 40 years have passed. We have increased in number, but also matured in spirituality and experience. We established branches, boards, and stakes. The future is bright and secure. I can say with total confidence that our children will build upon the legacy of many Portuguese saints, and the kingdom will continue to grow and flourish until the end.